1 month after letting Xavier go, Shania stood in the rain, watching the streetlight smear across wet pavement. Her coat was soaked through, but she didn't move. She couldn't. She had just walked past a small cafe, a place she used to frequent before everything fell apart. Through the fogged-up windows, she saw them. Xavier and his family. His wife was laughing, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His son, a boy no older than 5, was swinging his legs under the chair, speaking excitedly about something. And Xavier, he looked alive. He looked like a man who had been saved. But there was no trace of her in his world anymore. Shania turned away, her breath shuddering in her chest. She had known this would happen. She had made her choice. The words echoed in her mind, a cruel melody to the ache spreading inside her. All she had ever wanted was to be seen. To be loved. To be someone's reason to stay. But love wasn't enough. Not for her. Not for them. Xavier had found his way back home. And Shania? She had nowhere to go. 2 months after letting Xavier go, the apartment was silent. Too silent. Shania sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, surrounded by the remains of what little she had left. The bed was unmade, a half-empty coffee cup sat forgotten on the windowsill, and unopened letters piled on the table. She hadn't been to a meeting in weeks. She hadn't spoken to anyone in days. The loneliness curled around her, suffocating, pressing into her ribs like a dull blade. She had lost people before, but this was different. Xavier wasn't dead, but it felt like he was. He was untouchable now, living a life where she was nothing more than a shadow, a mistake that had been erased. And God, it hurt. She had been so sure she was doing the right thing. That saving him would mean something. But who was going to save her? 3 months after letting Xavier go, Shania walked through the city like a ghost, unnoticed and unseen. The world moved around her, people laughing, lovers holding hands, families gathering, but it all felt so distant. She found herself standing outside the bar before she even realized where her feet had taken her. The neon sign flickered. The door creaked as she pushed it open. The familiar scent of whiskey and regret wrapped around her like an old lover. She sat at the bar, the bartender barely sparing her a glance as he set a glass in front of her. Her fingers hovered over the drink. 1 sip, and she could forget. 1 sip, and she could stop feeling. Her hands shook. No one would know if she gave in. No one would care. Xavier wasn't coming back. There was no one left to stop her this time. Know that when you leave. Know that when you leave. By blood and by me. And I fall when you leave. Tears burned her eyes. He was gone. And she had nothing left to hold on to. Her fingers curled around the glass. She brought it to her lips. Paused. Waited for some kind of sign. Something. Anything.